Hi everyone, this is Mrs. Gonzalez, school counselor with Compass Charter Schools, and today we are talking about developing personal power. So I'm hoping that today marks a new beginning, or an important beginning, I should say, in which you realize that you have the power to affect outcomes in your life. Yes, and that power lies in the decisions that you make every day. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to ask you to do a little activity with me, and this requires that you have something to write on and something to write with. So grab a pen, paper, where you can write down some really quick notes here. On your screen, you should see a rating scale, and on one end, you have a 0 underneath it with the word none. And at the midpoint, it has a 5, which represents some. And you have 10 on the other end, which shows lots underneath, okay? This is all going to make sense in a little bit, I promise. But looking at this rating scale, I want you to write down the number that represents the amount of power you feel that you have to do something. So how much power do you feel that you have to start your schoolwork on time, to wear what you want, to change someone else's mind about something, and to get good grades? So if you feel that you have 100% control over something, one of these items here, or all of these items, then you would maybe give it like a 9 or a 10, right? So I'll give you a few seconds to complete the ratings. I'll pause, or I should say you should pause the video if you feel like you need to, okay? Because once you give your ratings, I want you to add up your numbers, okay? So if you score 20 or above, that means that you feel that you have a considerable amount of personal power. If you score below a 20, that means that you underestimate the personal power that you have. And if you scored below a 20, that's okay. We are going to turn that around by the end of this video, I'm hoping, since today, again, we are focusing on the power that you have as an individual to make choices and act. So the next thing I want you to do is I want you to think of a situation in which you had to work with someone else, either with a partner or with a group to accomplish a common goal. So maybe you participate in sports or a theater group, or maybe you did a group project, or party games. Sometimes you have to work in groups or with a partner, or even something as simple as working with your family to clean your house or the yard together. So pause for a moment and think about a situation in which you had to work with others or another person to accomplish a common goal. I'm going to ask you a few questions, so hopefully you have your situation already. When you were working together, was there anything particularly difficult about accomplishing the goal? How did you manage to work with the other person that you were working with? Was there a point in which you decided you no longer wanted to participate in the activities to accomplish your goal? In other words, was there a point in which you decided to give up? Did your decision to give it your all, give it only a little bit of effort, or give up entirely affect the outcome of whether you reached your common goal or not? And lastly, would you have chosen to do things differently if you could go back, and would it have mattered? Why am I asking you all these questions? Well, I'm asking you all these questions because I want you to see that you have the power to make your goal happen or not, because you have the power to cooperate with your partners, or team or not, right? So you have more power than you realize. And what gives people power? What do you think? I'm actually interested in knowing, do you think that money gives people power? Beauty? Physical size? Education? What other things give people power? What do you think? And I want you to, I really do want to know what you think. So I want you to type in your comments in the box below. I want you to tell me what you think gives people power, okay? And I think one of the things that we'll see is that many of the answers that were provided are going to be very different. So hopefully our comments fill up and you can see that, because power does come in many different shapes and sizes, many different forms, but true power always lies in the decisions that you make. And I want to give you an example to illustrate how powerful you are in making your decisions, in kind of setting a chain event of a chain reaction of events, I should say. Okay, so we have a situation. A scholar is failing English and math. She's not doing any of the work, and her teacher has told her that she is required to attend additional support sessions. And well, this scholar is feeling rather powerless because she's being required to attend these support sessions, right? But let's look at the sequence of events that occurred in order to get to this point, okay? So let's break it down. The teacher does not have to make scholars attend additional support sessions. She had to make a decision about it. And to get to that point, the scholar must have made a decision first. So what decision must the scholar have made first? There's actually quite a few things, right? But for simplicity, I'll give you some examples. That scholar may have chosen to do something else instead of her coursework, so she got distracted. She may have chosen to skip over a large chunk of coursework, and so she missed an entire or quite a few lessons, right, of learning. And she could have chosen not to seek help when she did not understand the course material. So she allowed the problem to get worse and worse, right? Can you think of other decisions the scholar could have made? I hope this example allows you to see that the source of power traces back to you, the scholar. And the ability to make these decisions and these choices is a kind of power, and it's in your hands. So there's a lot of responsibility there. We're almost ready to wrap up this week's SEL Spotlight, but before we do leave, I want to give you something to remind you of the power that you have in your hands, and this power to make decisions. Symbols, right? I want you to create a powerful symbol to remind you of the power that you have, because symbols are in and of themselves very powerful reminders of important things. Okay, so as we can see here are some examples for recycling, men and women's restrooms. If I saw that sign with a fork and a knife, well, I know that there's going to be a food place up ahead somewhere, okay? So just to refresh your memory, a symbol is something that we can see that stands for or represents something else, right? So sometimes if someone has a symbol that reminds them of someone special or something special, right? So the American flag and the hand love signal here, or symbol, is what I have as additional examples. And the United States flag is a very powerful symbol. Not only does it symbolize the 50 states in our union and the 13 original colonies, right, the 50 stars and the 13 stripes, but it can also represent something even more. It can be a symbol of power. It can be a symbol of pride for many different people. And then the hand symbol with the love, the heart, well, it represents one of the most awesome things in this world, right? So it's your turn. I'm going to ask you to create a power symbol, and the purpose of this symbol is to remind you of your own personal power. The idea is that when you look at the personal power symbol, you're reminded of a few things. And number one, that you have the power to affect your life and the life of others. Number two, that you alone are responsible for how to use the power that you have. And then lastly, number three, that you have the power to make good choices. Okay, so my guidelines are very easy for creating your own personal power symbol. At home, you can choose whatever art materials you have or want to use in your power symbol. You can draw, cut, paste, or use a combo of techniques to construct it. You can borrow a symbol that's already been created. If you have something that you've seen and you're like, oh, that just reminds me of, how powerful I am, or if whenever I look at it, I feel so empowered, that would be a great opportunity to recycle, right? What's already been created. And I'd love to see your power symbols of personal power. If you don't mind sharing it with me, go ahead and email me a picture. You see my email address here, ggonzalez@compasscharters.org. But most importantly, if you don't share it with me, you don't share it with your counselor or somebody else, I want you to keep it somewhere where you can see it every day to remind you. So make it your computer background, have it in your restroom when you're brushing your teeth every morning. It reminds you. Have it as your phone's screensaver, or the lock pad picture. Something where you can see it every day to remind you of the personal power that you have. Okay? So we are now to an end here.